filmmaking senior staff writer here at Backstage. Thank you so much for joining us at the first ever Backstage Fest. I am so excited to be moderating this panel about one of my favorite shows for going on 4 years now, Hulu's Emmy-winning series, The Handmaid's Tale. I am joined today by series cinematographer Stuart Biddlecombe, costume designer Debra Hanson, hey Stuart, and composer Adam Taylor. Thank you guys so much for sitting with me today. And as I said, this has been among my favorite shows for, going back to season 1, which feels like premiered a million years ago, but was actually 2017. And a huge reason for why I love it so much, but think it's also just so successful, is because of the work that you all do, bringing this, really timely, important story to life. And it is also, strangely, one of the most gorgeous shows on television, despite the fact that it depicts some of the utterly most gruesome images and acts. So to start with you, Stuart, again, you are the series DP. How conscious is the effort to make this show look beautiful in stark contrast to the true ugliness of Gilead that we see?
I thank you very much for starters. Say thank you very much. I'm glad you like it. And yes, we do. We do make it. We intentionally make it very beautiful. It is part of our plan to kind of show that contrast and kind of juxtapose the horror with also the beauty as well. And on the flip side of that, I also hope that, I certainly do hope that we never draw attention to ourselves. That's never our intention. I say it quite a lot, but the story should always come first. And we're incredibly lucky to have such incredible scripts across in every single episode. And it is not my job to try and beat that. It's very difficult. To be honest, it's impossible. But I always let the story do the talking, and the story does that for me. And I think I probably kind of speak for everyone, is that the story is so good that I don't really need to do an awful lot. I just kind of photograph what's in front of me. We are given extraordinary costumes and locations and everything else. And then I just need to kind of put a camera on it, really. So we do want to make it look beautiful, but ultimately we want to make sure we serve the story. That's the most important thing for me.
I think he's being very modest, quite frankly.
I agree.
So unusual in true life. No, Stuart, I really am amazed with the show and how it looks. Occasionally that I'm surprised by it and shocked by it. I know part of it, but I keep talking about how his light is so sculptural, which makes it incredibly beautiful and strangely surreal, but in this way where you feel you can touch people. There are times when somebody's walking through a shaft of light and they're in the shadow, they come forward. It's extraordinary what he does with light in the most simple way. And I do think it is storytelling. And you can see how the focus of his camera is helping tell the story. And I started with drawing. I knew that about him, but when I did the few drawings that I was doing, I would try to light them so that when we talked about them right in the beginning, before they were approved, he could see what I thought they would look like in a light form, right? And Elizabeth, the production designer, would be very involved in that as well. And we would color test and look at how that would happen. But even with the tests and with the sketches and how we did it, when I see the cuts, I'm delightfully surprised at how beautiful he's made it, how much the story is told. And if you turn off the sound, there's still a story going on. Don't ever do that, please. There's something that moves with the camera and onto those actors. And I always say that the hair and makeup people were fantastic on the show as well. But I think that the cinematography, without being overly, complimentary to Stuart, is extraurordinary. It is extraordinary work.
Thank you, Deborah. I shall pay you later.
Okay, good. That's really good. Checks in the mail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, thank you. I think it is very much. I think it is very much a group effort. And it's also, it's Adam as well. We all listen to his music. I mean, we as part of our process, we listen to his music so that we understand what the show is. So it isn't just the visual. It is very much kind of Adam is very much part of our process as well. So it's everyone. We've got a great team.
Right. And it's funny because, Debra, as the costume designer, a lot of your work obviously is done in pre-production, and then Stuart, as the DP, you're essentially the production. You're producing what we ultimately see. And then Adam, your work frequently, I imagine, comes into play in post-production. So we're sort of seeing all sides of the process here. So Adam, I mean, let me ask you, because so much of the show's, cathartic moments, devastating moments, I mean, frankly, very scary moments are, if not derived from, at least really enhanced by the score. So can you just tell us a little bit about, figuring out how a moment or a scene needs to sound in order to give it the greatest possible emotional impact?
Yeah, I think overall for the season, I wanted to approach it more melody based. Whereas in seasons past, like season 1 and 2, I'm actually binge watching them all with a friend that hasn't seen any of it yet. And I'm being able to see the entire thing. And I rarely watch the final product to go to mixes because you're working. And I realized how it was, just kind of moods and drones. And there was some commentary from the orchestration and everything. But as the story has been progressing, and my main feedback from Bruce was always just to be with June and to score where June is and what she's feeling, what she's seeing. And now, I don't want to do any spoiler alerts because I'm really bad at it, and I'm trying to remember what episode just came out. Yeah. But it's always the approach of what's going on with June and having access to Lizzie while they're filming or even after, and she's involved in the music spotting sessions where we watch the episode and pause it and watch, and discuss where we want music and what we want the music to enhance.
Yeah, and that's funny. I didn't consciously recognize it, but now that you say it, yeah, it is a lot more melody sort of based this season.
Yeah.
Well, Debra, back over to you. I mean, these costumes have become symbolic and recognizable in a way that, very few costumes from media ever sort of become. I mean, we've all seen women, dressed as handmaids outside of the Supreme Court. Are you aware of that added sort of significance when you're, in the process of creating these looks and these images?
Honestly, no. I came onto the show last season. This was my first season. And one of the things I talked about when we were interviewed for the show, when I was being interviewed, was kind of the elephant in the room. It's like, well, why do you want me? Because you have such extraordinary, iconic costumes, and I'm not somebody who would want to just do that. And I hadn't read the scripts, but they knew what they were doing. And they were looking for a transition. They were looking for fresh eyes, because I'm not sure how many episodes you watched either, but there's changes, but you have to have respect for what was done before, because it's going to appear, but it's not going to be the main focus. And so with the clothes, there's a real transition in shape, not in the color, but in textures as well. So that was my challenge, which I enormously enjoyed. And especially if you followed Serena in this, you will see, when she, there's a change. I'm not sure if I should say, but anyway, there's different shapes.
Let's just do it.
Yeah.
Spoil it.
Spoil it. I don't want to do it. But there are shapes that are different. And my joy for the piece was working with the actors and to make them feel comfortable in even the slightest change that we were making to those costumes. And again, I had the team that had the experience, both Stuart and Elizabeth, to help me guide that, and the actors as well. But it was just small details. Sometimes it was a different kind of fit. Sometimes it was a different shape with the same color. Sometimes it was hints that we did, but there were new looks throughout the show, starting from episode 1 going through to the end. So I just had to be respectful. And because I loved the show and I loved the looks, that was extremely easy to do. As far as, but there were questions. I mean, it was so interesting because when you're a different designer, you look at things, how they were made, what the layers were. And I was like, wow, that, you know, just from that, I never would have done that, but I'm just learning from somebody else behind me how they did that, you know, how they built the layers up and what was useful to me going forward, you know, right from the very first episode. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. And someone just commented in the chat box, I love spoilers. I bet you do. But you mentioned, Debra, you mentioned collaborating with actors, and we here at Backstage are all about the actors. So Stuart, I want to ask you specifically, I mean, I would be remiss if I did not ask you specifically about those close-ups of Handmaid's Tale Emmy-winning star Elizabeth Moss. I mean, they've become sort of like the iconic trademark of the show. Can you just, tell us a little bit about what it's like to be all up in that lady's face?
I mean, it's incredible. I mean, we are so lucky to have Elizabeth. She is such an extraordinary performer. She's an extraordinary artist, and you just can't help yourself. In all honesty, you know, you kind of you watch a scene, you know, you block a scene, and you just look at her and you just think, this is it. We know what the shot's going to be, because she is so magnetic with the camera. You just cannot take the camera away from her. And I mean, I'm sure she would kind of say, well, no, that's not the way that it is. But it is. I mean, even so much so that, you know, with the episodes which she directed as well. I mean, she was very conscious. You know, she said, I don't want to be that person to be direct myself and then end up in a close-up all the time. Okay. But we did, you know, we talked it through. We kind of went, okay, well, this is important. Now, this is part of the story. It is the Handmaid's Tale. It is about her. So these shots are required. They are important. And you know, she's so good. You just, as I said, you just can't. You do one take and go, well, that's just incredible. I don't know how we can top it, really. And it's not just Elizabeth either. You know, they're everyone across the board. They are all incredible. We are very lucky as a team to have this ensemble with us. Every day we are just blown away by their performances.
Yeah, I mean, all of them just across the board are just some of the best out there, frankly. Well, Adam, a similarly
it makes my job a lot easier.
Right. Well, a perfect segue. Similarly, sort of actory question, and you already did touch on this a little bit, but I guess I want to ask. I mean, for The Handmaid's Tale, but also just your work generally, how are you inspired by the actor's performance? Because I imagine, well, first of all, are you always scoring in post-production? And then, you know, if so, how are you inspired by what you're seeing the actor do on camera?
It's almost always in post. And before doing Handmaids, I had really only done a few things and was from the ad world. And so I would just kind of write on my own and have a stockpile library. So working with Reed on the pilot was the first time I was taking direction and trying to write because of something like on screen. So that was really tricky to learn. And then it became the only way I can do it now. Like if I sit down without some footage, I just like, I'd rather go get a burrito or something, you know. There's like no inspiration unless there's the amazing Lizzie Moss or Ann Dowd, you know, I'm bad with names. Everybody's great on the show. It just starts off, you know, we do a music spotting and we discuss where music's going to go. And then I watch the scene a lot. I think I'm probably second to the editor for who watches the scene or the episodes the most. It's probably like 30 to 40 times. And I just kind of keep watching it until I start to hear stuff. And then I pick tempo and then I start filling it out and fleshing it out. And usually with time permitting, I can maybe do one or two ideas per scene and then pick my favorite and then present that to all the executive producers and director.
And just to stick with you for another minute, because you mentioned something that I think is really interesting, that you sort of transitioned over from the ad world. I think a lot of people might get their starts in environments such as that and then want to transition over to more creative realms. How did you do that? Just really curious how to do that.
The short answer to that is I didn't do it. I was just working for this director that had more or less got me started working his stuff. And I landed this huge campaign with like 30 spots that had a like legit Hollywood editor who cut all of the pieces, liked my library, used it to cut this like A-list big budget Hollywood movie, and more or less got me through the back door to finish some themes for it. Got to go to Abbey Road in London to record, and then got an agent, and then did Reed's movie about a year later. So it just kind of snowballed from this one guy, Stephen Marioni. God bless him.
So that's all you have to do if you're listening and want advice. Just do exactly that. Replicate.
Yeah. Super easy to replicate.
Yeah, perfect. Debra, I want to go back to you, sticking in the more sort of general realm of your work. I want to just ask, as the costume designer, because again, we at Backstage are really actor focused, what are the ways that you just work directly with actors to help them either get into who their character is or understand new things about their character, or beyond that, just sort of help ground them in a given environment through what it is they're wearing?
I think I know it sounds so simplistic, but you just have to listen to them. You have to read your script. You have to know your script. If you're in a series and it's already been shot, you know the backstories, you know what they bring. You've spoken with the producers and the directors, and they all have something to say. And you talk to the production designer and to the director of photography, and you just think about it yourself. I try to be quiet about it. I mean, Stuart won't believe that, but it's true. It's true because I like to talk to them a lot. But I'm very quiet and until I speak and listen to the actors. And I really do try to listen to what their concerns are and how they see their character going forward and where they have been. And quite often, then I go on my personal journey, and sometimes I surprise them. First of all, they will see something related to what their requests were or their thoughts were. I have completely abstract 45-minute conversations with Joseph Fiennes, for instance, and I don't know what he thinks I said. I don't know what he really said, but there's emotional kind of bizarre connection there. And when we go into the fitting room, I mean, the first time I was a little nervous about it. And because I had put something in the room that just, I went by instinct. I had this feeling that it could work. And I showed it to him. I showed him all the kind of obvious things that we had to have that were very connected to how he had been and something really new. And I said, I just found it. It could be a mess. Don't worry about it. If you hate it, it's fine. And he put it on and he stood in front of the mirror for like 15 minutes and went, this is really good.
Oh, nice.
It's incredible, Debra. It's exactly how I feel I should feel. So somewhere inside myself and other costume designers who are artists, you find that piece. That's the best. That's the joy of it. But you must listen. And you must think yourself, and you have to study that script over and over and over again. Are you helping that actor tell the story? If the actor is going in a peculiar way that the script doesn't seem to indicate, then you got to talk to the director, you know, and you have to be honest with them saying, I never thought of that. Maybe we should have a discussion. So there's a lot of talk. And then the talk just fades away and it becomes a physical thing.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you get it right and the actor says you got it right, that must be just the highest compliment.
It is. It's a joy. I mean, you just feel fantastic. And that happened a number of times on this show. And I'm in the back of my mind, I think that a little bit they were a little worried because they could come in and they would find new things. There's a costume again that both Serena and the Commander Lawrence wear that is, it's always connected to the iconic pieces, right? There's always a connection. There's no kind of off onto left field. I never did that. It was never required to do that. But it was surprising for them and they were very happy with it. And so that was fantastic for me. I mean, it really is the biggest compliment when everybody turns around and says, just thank you, Deborah. It's, you know, I work with an amazing team, you know, as well, you know, to create those.
Yeah, I mean, clearly everyone who works on this show is just top of their game, top tier.
Yeah.
Well, and to sort of piggyback onto that, Stuart, to ask you a more general question as well. And, you know, Deborah earlier was talking about how her work is sort of inspired by what you do. I want to ask how what you do with the camera is inspired by all of the design departments. I mean, costumes, but also the production design. I mean, I imagine because those are such visual elements, it really sort of impacts your choices.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's a shame that unfortunately Elizabeth Williams, our incredible designer, can't be with us, which is a real shame because I mean she is the star. I mean Deborah and I were just talking earlier, and we were just saying how she's very much the linchpin of what we all do. You know, we are very collaborative, but she's very much the kind of the starting point. You know, she's great. I know she wins Emmys for a reason. And she shows us pictures. She shows Deborah and I images and colors, and then Deborah and I then go off and go, okay, well, how about this? So it all comes together. So it's all very tightly linked. And I must admit, I don't think it happens that much on other shows. Certainly in my experience, anyway. I think this show is quite unique in that we are so collaborative that we are all kind of pulling all in the same direction. And it has been set up, I came in 2 seasons ago. I mean, I'm not the first, but the guys who set it up did an incredible job, and we have to respect that. And so we're all still pulling in from those original colors and original ideas, I think. So, I think we're all kind of being respectful of what was done before, I think.
Right. The world existed when you came in, but now you get to sort of build upon it.
I think so.
Yeah.
As the characters continue to grow too, and enter new adventures and journeys that again we won't spoil.
Exactly.
I want to let you all go, but just to wrap, because each of you are so established and celebrated in your respective fields, and we have a ton of people watching who aspire to do essentially what you all do. I'd love if we could just end with each of you giving your one sort of, it's going to be tough, but one piece of catch-all advice that you would give to someone who wants to get started in this strange industry. So if we want to go Adam, Deborah, Stuart, and Adam, I know you sort of already talked about your journey, but yeah, if we want to just spitball.
Wow.
Right. Easy question, I know.
I suppose for, musicians, composers, it's all about your writing and being a person that's easy to work with, like being a nice guy. And writing every day, to reiterate the first point.
Deborah, what about you?
How to get in. Ask questions, knock on doors, listen, read history, read psychology, and keep your eyes open to everything around you, every visual, and communicate. Don't close yourself and be brave. I don't know. That's a really difficult question.
I know. I'm sorry to spring that on you, but I really love what you said about psychology specifically, because what is costume design if not understanding how people externalize what's happening inside?
And when I say history, I mean social history, right? There's a wonderful set of books called The History of Private Life. Buy them if you want to be a costume designer and read them. It's really fantastic. They're amazing.
Stuart, final word, no pressure.
Okay, great. I can't so much say. I'm not sure if I can add too much, really. I mean, I think both Adam and Deborah, I think we're kind of spot on. I think what Adam did say about being a good human being, I think that is vital. We spend so much time together away from our family and our friends. It's nice being around good people, and we're very lucky on the show that everyone, without exception, is genuinely the nicest people, and I think that's important for me. And then to be as a cinematographer is shoot as much as you can, shoot anything. And I've shot some all sorts of stuff which isn't great, but I learned from it. So get as much experience as possible. As Deborah said, knock on doors, just keep on going. It's tough, you will get knocked back, but just keep on going and you'll get it in the end.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be perfect early on. It gets better too the more you do it.
Yes, absolutely.
Awesome. That is a wonderful spot for us to end. I cannot thank the three of you enough for sitting with me today. Congratulations on, again, it's like my favorite show ever. And thank you all for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of Backstage Fest. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Lovely.
Thank you.
Adam, thank you for your work. We haven't met face to face, but it's
No, I
beautiful.
know.
This is stunning.
Thank you so much. Oh my gosh.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.